Well, I'm not sure I agree with the idea that there was no planning for school closures, because if you look at the sequence from February onwards, it's clear that SAGE is talking about the possibility, the Cabinet is discussing it in March, certainly. I remember the subject coming up repeatedly. And then if you look at the paper of I think there's a citing note from the DFE on the 15th of March to me for a meeting in which they go over all kinds of stuff that are going to be necessary to enact school closures, looking at safeguarding, looking at exams, looking at the needs of vulnerable kids, teacher training, and so on, free school meals. All of that was in there. So that indicated to me at the time, and I'm fairly sure I remember it, but certainly indicates to me now that work was going on in the DFE about school closures, and it'd be amazing if it wasn't.
Yes, but Mr. Johnson, that note was on the 15th of March, so at a very late stage in the day, correct?
Yes.
And what we're focused on is the period leading up to that, and what planning was going on prior to that point, correct?
Yes. I'm afraid I can't tell you very much about that, except to say that my evidence from what I saw is that the work had been going on, because there were clearly discussions that had been taking place.
Can I interrupt? Would you expect, running the United Kingdom as Prime Minister, would you expect the Department for Education to wait for a request for them to develop contingency plans?
No, of course not. And I think that, as I say, I think that my impression from the stuff I read was that a great deal of thought and care was already going into some of the key questions. But this is what Mr. Slater he says he had no plan ready. I think that is surprising. I think that it was a subject that had repeatedly cropped up at SAGE meetings, at SPIMO, all of which the relevant departments had been represented, and there had been, including DFE. So, no, I don't really accept that. I think that there had already been conversations about the possibility of closing schools, and it looked to me as though the DFE was preparing for that.
Wasn't it?
I certainly think that if you mean, was COVID a disaster? Yes. And was the whole was the loss of education a disaster? Yes. Was the loss of exams a disaster? Yes. Was the disappointment, anger, frustration of a large number of kids, the additional frustration, a disaster? Yes, it was. But it has to be seen in the context of us trying to deal with a much, much bigger disaster. And that was the loss of learning and the loss of exams themselves. And it was plainly not easy to come up with a substitute system.
I was asking a very specific question about assessed grades and whether you accepted that was a particular disaster, and a disaster for those young people.
Well, the centrally assessed grades would turn out to be the right way of doing it, but the algorithm plainly was a disaster. Yes.
You keep saying the algorithm, Mr. Johnson, but the algorithm, you do appreciate and understand that the algorithm was a design arrived at because it was the intention to moderate grades. Yes?
Yes.